Hey, it's Adam with yet another tutorial on MixEffect. Today we're going to talk all about SuperSource. SuperSource is a feature that exists on the ATEM Mini Extreme, the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, the ATEM 2ME Production Studio 4K, the ATEM 4ME Broadcast Studio 4K, and the ATEM Constellation 8K, which allows you to display 4 to 8 boxes of video sources on screen at the same time. Now, the only ATEM switcher that supports 8 boxes is the ATEM Constellation. So we're going to put that one aside for right now. I know many of you probably have the ATEM Mini or the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, so this video is for you. And for those of you with other ATEM switchers, such as the ATEM Mini, the ATEM Mini Pro, or ATEM Mini Pro ISO, I encourage you to continue watching this video because you might want to buy an ATEM Mini Extreme after watching this, because SuperSource is a fantastic feature. Let's get started by taking a look at my iPad. So this is my iPad Pro, and I have the default presets installed. Now, if you've installed MixEffect for the very first time and you have one of these switchers that support SuperSource, you may encounter a bug, which I haven't quite figured out what's causing it, where you don't have any of the presets installed and you're like, where's all my presets? Don't fear, there's a way to get them back. The way to do that is to tap on the icon in the upper right corner, which is the View All Presets page button. From there, you tap on the Options menu, which is this one, also in the upper right corner, and you choose Reset Presets. Now, I only encourage you to do this if you don't have any presets installed, or if you want to get back to your default presets, because what this command will do is it will delete all of your SuperSource presets and install the default ones. And this operation cannot be undone, so be careful. And later in this video, I'll show you how to import and export SuperSource presets. So now that you got your default presets, what can you do? Let's take a look. So let's say we want a 4-grid layout. All you have to do is tap the preset icon in the SuperSource page, and there you go. And you can just cycle through your SuperSource presets. If you have a keyboard attached, you can actually use the command key equivalent. So in this case, if I wanted to go to the 4 horizontal crop, I would just type Command Option 4, and it would just switch to that. Command Option 1 goes back to the 4-grid. If I'm in the grid mode here, you don't get the keyboard shortcuts, but you see all of your SuperSource presets in a grid view. And you can always expand your icon like this in the upper left-hand corner if you're on an iPad to see more icons of your presets. So we can just switch back to these other presets. You can see what happens. The selected preset will always appear with an orange box around it. Okay. Now, let's switch things up. So by default, your SuperSource preset boxes will appear in blue, but let's give them a splash of color so that we can see them, identify them a little better. So you'd go to MixEffect settings in the upper left-hand corner, you tap on User Interface, and then let's turn on these 3 options for SuperSource. Differentiate boxes with colors, Sticky Current Preset, and Show Transition Speed menu. I probably should turn these on by default because I think they're great features. So we go back to the SuperSource section, and now you see that the interface has changed slightly. So the boxes in your presets are now color-coded. Box 1 comes in blue, box 2 is in red, box 3 is in green, and box 4 is in purple. You can also see that in this SuperSource editor down here below. You also get access to the transition speed menu. So by default, I believe the speed is set at fast, but if you want your transitions to happen instantly, you can just choose instant here and watch what happens. If I go back to fast, transitions will happen quickly. If I want an extra slow transition, I can go to, I'll do slow. You can see what happens here. The transitions happen much more slowly. So depending on what you like your transitions to be, you can choose it from this menu. In addition, the Sticky Current Preset will show you the current preset labeled in green on the far left. And then when you scroll through your presets in this page, you always see that one stuck to the far left. So we're going to go back to our iPad Pro 12.9 pip right here. Let's take a look at some of the other interface elements here. So down below, we have the SuperSource bar, editing bar, and we have plus. This will create a new preset based on whatever the current preset is at the moment. So if I wanted to create a new preset based on this iPad Pro 12.9, I would just tap the plus icon. Now I can choose a new name for this. I'll call it iPad Pro 12.9 Alt for alternate. And we'll see that it's selected automatically. And if I make changes to this and save them, they will be saved to this preset. And I'll show you how to save your changes to your preset later. But that's what the plus button does. This little reload button resets the highlight. So what is a highlight? Highlighting is a way for MixEffect to make a box bigger or smaller depending on whether it's highlighted or not. So in this case, I'm going to tap 1, and this will highlight box 1, which is actually my pip. So you see there that box 1, my pip got a little bit bigger and the iPad Pro screenshot went a little bit smaller. If I tap 2, it'll make the iPad screen a little bit bigger and the pip smaller. And if I tap the reload button, that will reset things back to normal. And this button only appears if there are 2 boxes enabled on screen at the moment. And it's the swap boxes feature. So if you tap that, it will swap the boxes. So now I'm in box 2 and box 1 shows the iPad Pro. So you can switch back and forth just like this. Now, there's also keyboard equivalents for highlighting. If I wanted to tap Command 1, that will highlight box 1, which is the pip. If I do Command 2, that will highlight box 2, which is the iPad Pro. And Command tilde will reset the highlight. Now, if I had 4 boxes enabled, like in the 4 grid, I could do box 1, highlights box 1, 2, 3, and 4. And Command tilde, again, makes things back to normal. Now, the options, SuperSource options menu is down here next to the highlight box 4. And that's a menu of frequently used actions that you might have when using your SuperSource. You can change the animation speed, which we saw with the transition speed menu thing here. You can change the size of how big the highlighted box gets. Right now I have it at 110%, but you can make it up to 150%. So if I did this and highlighted box 1, you'll see that it gets super big. Okay, now that's too big for this particular preset, but you may have a preset where you want to highlight the box and make it super big. We're going to set it back to 1.1. I'm going to reset things. You can also change the size of the boxes when they get smaller. So all the boxes that are not highlighted, I make them 90% of the size. But again, you can go all the way down to 50% size, and I'll show you what that looks like. So if I highlight box 1, you'll see that boxes 2, 3, and 4 get 50% smaller. We're going to reset that back to 0.9. I'm going to reset this. So now everything is back to the default. 110% for the highlighted box and 90% for the non-highlighted boxes. In the animation menu, you can change the animation style. So this changes the kind of the mathematical function that I'm using to move the boxes. So you can just experiment with this to find which one is the best one for you. You can do from linear to sine, smooth, and those will change kind of like the speed at which the boxes start moving and how fast they go during the transition, and maybe how fast they slow down at the end of the transition. Box 1s, 2, 3, and 4 allow you to set the source for this from the menu, or you can swap a box with one of the other boxes here. Transition, this is just a quick way to do an auto or cut between whatever's in your preview source. And then you can also go to the switcher, which just takes you to the switcher page here. That's useful if you are using it on an iPhone. So if we go back to SuperSource, the next thing we have down here is the SuperSource Visual Editor. So you see right here, there's a lock icon. This prevents you, when it's red, prevents you from moving any of the boxes around, okay? But if I unlock it, and I'm going to go back to the iPad mini, actually, let's go to the iPad Pro Alt that we were changing earlier. If I tap on the lock icon, you'll see that it becomes unlocked. And now I can actually move the boxes around. So if I want to move this one down here, I just tap with my finger and I can drag it around. See, here I am flying around, and you can see the preview in real time here. I can use the pinch gesture to make it bigger. So if I want to make my pip a little bit bigger, I can do that. And let's just move the iPad Pro a little bit to the left and make this box a little bit smaller so that it still fits on one screen here. Down below, we have a variety of controls to adjust how you can move these boxes around with your finger. So the first thing is down here, this little tic-tac-toe symbol is the grid alignment. So if you tap it and it turns green, your boxes will now be aligned to an invisible grid on the screen. And you can change the size of the grid by tapping the next icon. Right now, the boxes are aligned to a 5-pixel grid. So if I made it 25, you can see if I'm dragging it around, the box is moving not very smoothly because it's aligning to the grid. Okay. So I'm going to set this back to 5, which is the way I like it. And put it just like that. And then maybe align this like that. Now, the next icon here is the horizontal and vertical constrain toggle. So right now, everything is freeform. I can just move this around like this. But if I tap this, it turns to the horizontal constraint. So now I can't move it up and down. It's just constrained left and right. If I tap it again, it'll be only up and down, not left and right. If I tap it again, it'll come back to, I can move it in any direction. So the next icon here is the box selector. So right now, if I want to just change, let's say I wanted to change box 1 only, and I want to change its size to, let's say, 50%. Boom, like that. And then I change this to 45%. If I wanted to change all boxes, I can say to all boxes. And now when I choose the size and say I want all the boxes to be 60%, all the boxes become 60% in size. Now the iPad Pro looks like it's smaller than box 1, my pip. It's because I've cropped it, okay? But I'm going to reset this back. I'm going to tap the reload button, and that will just set everything back to normal. Now the last thing is this icon here, which is the aspect ratio button. And if you choose this, you can change the size, the aspect ratio of your boxes to a variety of different things. So for instance, if I want them all to be 16:9, I can do this. And you can see in real time that everything got resized to 16:9. If I want them all to be squares, I can say square. And now all the boxes are squares. If I want them to be, say, 9:16, I can do that and become portrait. So let's reset everything back to normal like this. Now, I mentioned earlier about saving presets. You see that I'm making changes to the layout, but the preset itself hasn't been saved. You see the preview in the upper left-hand corner, iPad Pro Alt, is still looking like this. Now, if you long press this icon, let's do this. Let's move this. Let's move me over here, and I'll move the iPad over there. If you long press on a preset, any preset, it will save those changes to that preset. So if we wanted to change iPad Pro 12.9 Alt, all I do is long press on this, and you'll see it spin. And that's your indication that the preset has been saved with the latest changes that you've made. So now if I go to this preset here, if I go to, say, iPad Pro, this one, and now I go back to the Alt, it will update itself. Now, the icon didn't actually change here. That's probably a bug. I'll need to figure that out. But now it has changed because it is the default preset. So if I go back to the original one and go to the Alt one, it gets fixed. So that is the visual editor for the SuperSource. Down below, we have a couple of toggles here: show box sources, show box controls, and preview scale. Let's go with preview scale first. So by tapping the stepper icons, we can change the size of the preview. Show box sources is a nice way to see and set your box sources. So for instance, box 1 is set to the 5D Mark IV, which is the camera that I'm using, and box 2 is set to the iPad. And all you do to change it is, if I want box 2 to show color bars, I would just tap bars. Color 1, color 2, or maybe I wanted to show the media player 2, which is my title for this video. But let's go back to iPad. Go back to box 1, and it's set to 5D Mark IV. So if you wanted to save your preset with box sources, you can do this. And there's another feature within MixEffect where you can actually lock the box sources, and I'll cover that later in this video. But that's what show box sources is. It's a quick way for you to change your sources in real time. Show box controls, I'm going to hide show box sources. Show box controls allows you to fine tune your boxes. So this is very similar to the palettes that you see in ATEM software control, where you can enable and disable boxes. You can change its X and Y positions. So I'm going to just move box 1 using the slider here. Now, probably easier to use my finger, but if you wanted to use fine tune the adjustments, you can tap the stepper controls and they'll move by in single increments. Okay. And then you can also change the size using the slider here, or use the stepper controls for more fine-tuned adjustments. Now, for box 2, we cropped it because the iPad is not in 16:9 format. So here, what we're doing, we've enabled the crop and we've set the crop here. You can see if I adjust this, if I say top and make it bigger, you see it's cropping the top quite a bit. Okay. So we'll reset that back to normal. And then same thing with left and right. You can crop like this, right? Crop like this. Now we don't want to set these settings, so we're just going to tap this to reset everything back to normal. Now, the set all settings button is a little kind of confusing. This is actually used for when you're recording macros. So by default, when you're recording a macro is not going to record all the settings you do. It's only going to record the settings that you tweak. But the set all settings button is used to actually set all the settings that you see in the SuperSource palette that you see right here to the macro. And then reset allows you just to reset position, size, crop, or reset all things for the boxes. And we're not going to do that right now. So that's what the show box controls feature does. I'm going to hide that for right now. Now, a couple more things before we get into some more advanced topics. The SuperSource Art tab, that's for controlling what is used in the background or foreground. So in this case right now, my fill source is set to my Apple TV, which is actually producing the animated background that you see below. I could change this fill source to something else. So for instance, in my media player, if I set a background to say media player 1, and I go back to SuperSource, if I set the fill source to media player 1, you'll see now it changes to a static background that's from my media pool. I'm going to go back to the Apple TV. You can also set the background to be in the foreground, set the art to be in the foreground or the background. In this case, I have it in the background. But if you had a piece of art that you wanted to show, say, lower thirds, so for instance, I'm going to go to this foregrid here. I'm going to set the art, I'm going to set the media here, and I'm going to say this foregrid border. Go back to SuperSource, and I'm going to set this to media player 1, and I'm going to set it in the foreground. And let's see, what does pre-multiply do? Okay, so you can see now that the media is actually put like this kind of faux border around my grids, my SuperSource boxes. And the iOS, this box 3, I'm going to change this to show like a color so you can see the difference. There you go. Now, I personally like kind of the using the upstream keyer or the downstream keyer to do lower thirds. But this is a way if you want to do like cutouts within your SuperSource, you can use the media player and use the foreground option. In this case, though, we're going to go back to using the Apple TV. And I'm going to set it to the background. I'm going to turn off pre-multiplied over there. Now, some ATEM switchers support borders, which allows you to place borders around your boxes. The ATEM Mini Extreme ISO and the ATEM Mini Extreme do not support the border. That's why it's grayed out here. So if you try to enable it, nothing's going to happen. But if you have the 2ME Production Studio 4K or the 4ME Broadcast Studio 4K or the ATEM Constellation 8K, you can use the border option there. Copy boxes just allows you to copy settings from one box to another. I don't think it's that important because you have such easy ways to change your boxes from the presets page, but that's something that's available to you as well. Now, let's take a look at the search features of MixEffect. So if you tap on the icon up here, it's the search button, you can filter your presets based on anything you type. Now the search will search both the title of the preset and the description. We're going to cover how you can see the description later in this video. But let's say we wanted to see all the boxes that support 4. So I'm going to just say 4, and it's going to filter all the presets that have the word 4 in it. Okay. If I wanted to change the filter to say iPad Pro, I type search, you'll see all the ones that support the iPad Pro. And I can just tap these and go here. MixEffect also supports adding tags to your presets. So this is a way for you to quickly filter your presets based on particular tags. So if you had a show where you only use, say, 10 of your presets, you could tag them with a specific name and then do a search with that tag name and only see those presets. And it's a very quick way to filter your list of SuperSource presets. So I'm going to clear the filter out. Just clear that out like this. And I'm going to go to the View All Presets page. Now, this is the page where you can do a lot of things with your presets. So you can search and filter your presets like before. So if I tap iPad, it will just filter them based on iPad or 4, or just clear it to see all your presets. If you long press or control click on a preset, you'll see a menu. You can edit the preset. You can set the layout, the current layout to that preset. So if I tap this, it will set it to the 4 grid, which you're seeing right now. We'll go back to this one here. You can add it as a favorite. So adding as a favorite will move it to the top and show it as in yellow. So you can also sort your presets over here. So right now I have them sorted by name, but if I want to sort them by favorite, I could do that. And then you see the iPad Pro 12.9 pip goes up to the top. And again, it's kind of highlighted in yellow for you. You can also sort them by box count. So this will show like all the 4 boxes and then all the 3 boxes, 2 boxes, and 1 boxes. We're going to sort them by name, and we're going to remove the favorite from this one. Now, here's a very powerful feature. Now, by default, MixEffect does not, it saves what sources you have assigned to a box, but when it's actually switching between SuperSource presets, it doesn't use them. So by default, unless you have use box sources, which is this checkbox down here checked, it will just take whatever is in box 1, 2, 3, and 4 and apply it to the next SuperSource preset. Now, this is good if you're switching between presets. So if you've set up boxes 1, 2, 3, and 4 exactly the way you want them, and you want to switch between 4 grid and 4 alternate, it's good. The boxes stay perfectly the same no matter what. So you can change depending on what's currently visible on screen at the time. But let's say you have some presets where you want to lock the box sources, meaning you have 2 4 grids, and one of them you want to have inputs 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the second preset you want to have boxes have inputs 1, 5, 6, and 7. And that's how you would use the use box sources feature. So the first thing, I'm going to demo this with the 4 grid. So I'm going to create a duplicate of the 4 grid. I'm going to say duplicate. And we see 4 grid number 1 has appeared here. I'm going to say edit preset. So I'm going to say edit preset. I'll call this locked boxes. And I'm going to say check this use box sources feature. And by default, it sets all the box sources to be locked. Okay. So I'm going to say save this. And then I'm going to make a duplicate of this one again. And I'll give this one a different name. Say this one's number 2. And I also have locked box sources. So now let's go back to SuperSource here. And we'll do a filter on 4 grid. Actually, 4 grid locked. And we see our 2 boxes right here. Now, the icon that you get when you lock a box sources is a little lock icon here. And we're going to have these locked to these sources, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But for number 2, I said earlier, we're going to lock these to 5, 6, and 7. So box 2 will get input 5, which is the Apple TV. Let's actually make that the color bars. Box 3 will get color 1, and box 4 will get color 2. So these are locked. And so now watch what happens if I go between 4 grid locked boxes, number 1. Okay, and I go to number 2. Oh, what did we just see here? I forgot to save the preset. This is a common bug, or not a common bug, a common problem that people say. They switch the sources, but nothing happens. So I forgot to save the preset. Even it happens to me, the developer of MixEffect. So let's do that again. Bars for 2, color 1 for 3, and box 4 will get color 2. And then I'm going to long press on this and save the boxes. So now I go back to this one. You see it goes to 5D Mark IV, input 1, iPad's input 2, iOS is 3, and the Mac is 4. I'm going to go click on this now. And you see the box sources have changed. But it's still the 4-grid locked, but the sources are changing. So I can go back and forth between these two, and the sources will change. Now, if you see here, if I go back to 4-grid, I'll see a little bit more. If I'm using the 4-grid lock boxes, which is again using inputs 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I go to 4-grid alternate, they'll stay as inputs 1, 2, 3, and 4. But if I go to 4-grid lock boxes number 2, where I have them as the color bars and color 1 and color 2, and I go back to 4-grid alternate, you'll see they stay in camera 1, color 2, and color bars because 4-grid alternate is not using locked box sources. But if we wanted to set it to lock box sources, we can just say use box sources right here, okay? Now, one other thing that I mentioned earlier was you can check which boxes you want to lock. So let's say we didn't want to lock number 4, okay? I'll just uncheck that and I'll tap save and we'll see what happens here. So if I go to 4-grid lock boxes, this is using, again, inputs 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I go to this one, 4-grid lock boxes. We unlocked box 4. So what should we see in box 4? Should we see a color? No, we don't. We see black because that is input 4, the locked box from 4-grid locked boxes. Okay. But if I locked it, go back to edit preset and check number 4 and save, go back, run the preset again, you'll see that the color changes, okay? Because it's using now the source that's baked into the preset, which is color number 2. So that's locked box sources, a very powerful feature. And I have a video that covers that in depth that I'll put in the show notes below. So another feature of SuperSource in MixEffect is that you can save the preset icon. So I offer a variety of icons from small all the way up to 1080p. And you can use these to help create kind of templates that you can use for lower third graphics or cutout graphics. And I have a GitHub repository which have Photoshop templates of all of these presets in 1080p format with guides and everything so you can match pixel perfectly your backgrounds or overlays onto your presets. So I encourage you to take a look at the repository, download the Photoshop templates, and make wonderful looking graphics. And if you have anything you want to share, please do so in the comments below. If you use Companion with a Stream Deck, you can also export a companion icon. And whenever you export a preset icon, it's going to copy it to your Photos library on your iOS or your iPad. And from there, you can export it to your computer using AirDrop or email, and then you can import it into Photoshop and do whatever you want with it. For the Companion one, you can then drag and drop that file into Companion, and then it will appear on your Stream Deck as a little icon. Another great feature of MixEffect is that you could export the SuperSource preset icon. To do that, go to the View All Presets page, long press or right click on a preset, and in the menu that appears, choose Save Preset Icon. Another menu will appear, allowing you to export that icon in various sizes, from small, big, companion, SD, 720p, or 1080p. And when you choose one of the options, it will save it to your Photos library. And from there, you can AirDrop it to your computer, you can email it, or save it to another cloud location like Dropbox. What's great about the 1080p version is that I've actually created a GitHub repository on which you can download all the Photoshop templates for all of these default presets. And I've added in alignment guides that show you exactly where all the boxes are. And you can use these Photoshop templates to create lower third graphics or SuperSource Art foreground or background graphics. You'll note that the boxes in the Photoshop export sometimes are slightly off in terms of pixels to what you see on screen. It might be off by like 1 or 2 pixels, but the Photoshop templates should be correct so that you look at the alignment guides and where you see the box, that's where the video source will appear. And again, use that to create lower third graphics or SuperSource art in your video projects. The other export option for a Save Preset icon is Companion. So if you use MixEffect with a Stream Deck, with Companion, you can export a graphic that's perfectly sized for one of those Stream Deck buttons, and then you can assign that button that graphic, and then when you press that graphic, you can assign a SuperSource transition command, and it will transition your SuperSource to that layout. So I have a video that talks about how to use MixEffect with Companion and Stream Decks, also on my YouTube channel, so definitely check that out. From the View All Presets page, you also have access to List mode. So you get that by tapping on the Options button and choosing List. Here you see now a list of your SuperSource presets. On the right-hand side is a play button. And if you push the play button, it will switch it to that preset. So for instance, if I do pip under, it looks like it's frozen right now. Sometimes this happens, the page gets frozen. The way you get rid of that is you go out of the SuperSource page and come right back, and it should be back to normal. Here we go. So again, you tap the play button and it will transition the SuperSource layout to there. You tap the play button again, there you go. Now what's different about the list mode as opposed to the grid mode is that you have an edit button up in the upper right. And if you tap that, you'll be able to multi-select your presets. So I'm going to select these 4 grid ones, and you have a bunch of options that now appear at the bottom in the editing bar. The first icon is export presets to the clipboard. And the reason why you do that is just say you are creating a shortcut that you want to distribute to other people. And this shortcut basically imports presets that you've created. You could export these to the clipboard, and then in your shortcut, add it to a text action, and then add and import presets, SuperSource presets action at the bottom. Then when the user runs that, it will import those presets into their version of MixEffect. You can also save selected presets using the next icon here. And that will bring up a standard dialog box in which you can save your presets. The next icon is the export photo icon. So if you selected like 4 icons, you want to export just those icons, you can go into list mode, select them, and then choose the icon size that you want to save. The last 2 relate to tags. So the first button is add tag. And then here you can just type in a tag name minus the pound sign. So I'll just type in the number 4. And you see, actually not the number 4, the word 4. And you see pound 4 has been appended as a tag to this preset. And now I can filter these by just typing pound 4 in my search bar. And I use this feature to when I'm doing a project and I say I'm going to be using these 10 presets, I'll just give those 10 presets a unique tag name. And then in my search bar, I can filter them. And similarly, to remove tags, you just select the tags you want and tap on the remove tag button and type in the tag name. Again, you don't need to put the pound sign in. You just type in the name of the tag and say remove. And then those tags are removed from the list. You also have access to a select all button here. If you want to bulk modify all of your presets, for instance, if you want to delete all your presets, you could just tap the delete button down here. So if we go back to grid view, so we have a couple other options here. Hide descriptions. So if we scroll all the way down, we see description. So these particular presets here that have these kind of long descriptions are used when you want to show more than 4 boxes using SuperSource and the upstream keyer. So the ATEM Mini Extreme has 2 upstream keyers for the DVE, so you can actually have up to 6 boxes on display at a time. The ATEM Constellation 8K can show up to 8 boxes, and that's not using this feature. It's actually using the Cascade feature of SuperSource on the ATEM Constellation. So if you have an ATEM Constellation 8K, there'll be another option down here, which is Enable Cascade. If you toggle that, it will take SuperSource 1 and SuperSource 2 and combine them on your display. And you'd also have a little tab bar down here to allow you to switch between SuperSource 1 and 2. So coming back to the description, if you want to say hide the description, that will just hide the thing and make your SuperSource presets view all page a little tighter. I'm going to show the descriptions. We also have the ability to import and export SuperSource presets into MixEffect. To do that, go to the View All Presets page and tap the Options button, and you'll see some options: Import Presets and Export All Presets. If you tap Export All Presets, that will save all your presets into a JSON file, and then you can use that to email yourself, save it to Dropbox, or AirDrop it. And then from there, you could do an Import All Presets action, and that will import all your presets that you've selected. So you can choose the presets that you want to import, and this will replace all presets that have the same unique ID. So every time you create a preset, it gets a unique ID. Now, you may want to delete all of your presets before you import a new set of presets. And the reason is the default set of presets actually get a unique ID whenever you install the default preset. So there might be an instance where you can actually create duplicate presets with the same name, even though they have unique IDs. And this can actually cause some bugs due to the way MixEffect currently searches for presets based on their name. So I would encourage you, make sure that all your presets have unique names. It's very important. So if you wanted to delete all your presets, the way you would do that is you would go to list mode, you do tap edit, tap select all, and tap delete. Delete layouts, delete the selected layouts. This operation cannot be undone. I say delete. And then from here, I would go to the import all presets page, choose the presets I want to open. So I want to open this one here and tap import, and that will add all the presets to MixEffect. And these are actually a new set of presets that I have, the one that I had before I reverted back to the default, because I've created a bunch of new presets that I use. Now, if you're receiving a preset file from someone else and you know those are all unique presets that don't duplicate some of the default presets, feel free just to go to import presets and choose that option. And then you don't, but just make sure that the presets that are imported don't have the same name as an existing preset. Again, that can cause problems when you're using MixEffect. And one way to check if your presets have duplicate names is just to go into list mode and take a look and verify. I probably should write a shortcut that helps you locate duplicate presets as well. Maybe that will come in a future version of MixEffect. But that's how you can import and export presets. So I encourage you, go out, make some really cool presets and share them with the community. The ones I've created, the default ones are great, but I know that you're creating some really neat ones and we want to see them. So be sure to contribute your presets either on the Facebook page, on Discord, or in the Slack community for MixEffect. Okay, so what else is there in SuperSource? From the switcher section, you can add a panel to your switcher page. So you see right here, I have a switcher panel for SuperSource. It's in the rightmost column, but you can move that by tapping edit this page. Try that again, edit this page. And I'm going to add the panel right here. Say SuperSource. I'm going to remove it from this one here by just swiping to the left, tap close. Now I have a SuperSource panel that's kind of like full width of the page. If I remove the sidebar, I can see it all like this. And this panel here in SuperSource will show just the presets that you have filtered on. So right now I have all the presets, but if I tap this to go to the SuperSource page and tap filter, and then maybe say I tap what's new, and now it will show, if I go back to the switcher now, it will show me just the presets that I have with the what's new tag here. So if I was doing a video again, what's new, I can just tap the ones that I want to use during my show. I mentioned earlier that you can use SuperSource with Companion. I have a video all about how to use MixEffect with Companion and a Stream Deck. So I encourage you to take a look at that video because I'm not going to rehash that. But that's a way for you to be able to use your Stream Deck so you can push a button and have a SuperSource preset automatically transition for you. It's really great. I also have a video on using shortcuts with SuperSource to do lower thirds. So I encourage you to watch that video as well. So let's see if there's any last minute features within SuperSource that I want to show. And I don't think so. But if I do, you're sure to see another video from me about MixEffect. If you like this video, please subscribe. I'm getting much closer to 1,000 subscribers, and every subscriber counts. I hope to post more videos about MixEffect in the coming weeks. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and be on the lookout. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.